This Guy's Garage. Like and subscribe.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I echo Mr. Desjardins' comments. It's refreshing to actually come to any committee and actually get forthright answers and not word salad. So far. Mr. Hayes, Mr. Goulet, and Mr. Lombardi, thanks for the report. I appreciate everything you've put into it. I just want to start with the three of you. 7.16 in the 7.16 in the report, comment about the requirements for security in cloud were not followed. But we only audited 3 departments. Do we need to do a wider audit if you've come up with these concerns with just the 3 departments that you audited?
Some of our findings relate to the central agencies rules and the oversight, monitoring, and implementation support. So I think that if the central agencies are addressing the weaknesses that we found and filling the gaps that we found, then we should see some better implementation. We are planning on following up on this report on a faster basis than what we would normally do because of the fact that this is early stages and there's work to be done.
With the central agencies, we've seen on other reports where someone actually took one of my lines of who's on first. We've seen the departments all, well, I'm not responsible. Well, everyone's responsible, but I'm not accountable. Who should be, in this very serious report and follow-up needed, what should be the main department that should be accountable or should be in charge of ensuring everyone falls in line and follows the rules, but also addresses the security issues?
So my apologies for taking your line. I think it was me that stole it today. In terms of accountabilities, I'll say that departments have to be accountable for the information that is entrusted to them. The roles and responsibilities of the central agencies is relatively straightforward. Treasury Board provides the policy direction. It gets to the point where, though, when there's an event and roles and responsibilities are not clear, that there might be delays or there might be something missed along the way, or in monitoring and ongoing supervision, who's looking at that? If there's unclarity, somebody might not actually do it. So our point is that everybody should know exactly what they should be responsible for doing all the time.
Okay. In the next paragraph down in 717, you state the government must take immediate action. What is immediate in respect to this report? We've seen other reports where 9 years later down the road and we're still waiting for what is immediate? 1 month, 1 year, 6 months?
So we were pleased to see the timeframes that were put in the responses to the recommendations, and from our perspective, those were reasonable timeframes to take action. Obviously, we are dealing with an ever-evolving and very dynamic field, so there has to be constant vigilance with this. Okay. I don't know if I said that word, constant vigilance. It was under my breath there.
Thanks. I wasn't going to use that term, so you can have that one. Thanks. Ms. Llewellyn, thanks for your comments. It's probably your direct nature today is very much appreciated. You mentioned departments are delivering plans to you in April. What happens if who's deciding if those plans are acceptable? Is it yourself? Do they then go back to the minister or to the deputy minister and say, this is not good, resubmit?
That is correct. So they are reviewed. I have portfolio leads within OCIO who have got accountability for groupings of departments. And so they're able to review them not just on an individual basis, but as they compare to sort of their colleague cohort group.
Is there a due date in April for these?
I believe it's April 6th, but it might be April 3rd.
Would you be able to provide to the committee when they show up of which departments have met the acceptable level?
I'm happy to do that.
Oh, wonderful. Who are the, I'm not sure if it'd be Mr. Perron, well, I guess Ms. Llewellyn, who are the companies we're using for hosting cloud?
So I will let Sunny answer that, but I think just for pure cloud services, we have got 8 service providers, if I've got that number correctly, and I'll let my colleague from PSPC or SSC answer that.
Because I wanted one last question. Maybe you can just submit it to us, Mr. Perron. The on-guard test you talked about, do you have the results or the conclusions from those tests?
We do those on a regular basis. So since I've been with the government, we've done 2. We just finished the second one, and I'm expecting the report in the next number of weeks.
That's something you can share with the department? Maybe not the exact reports,
with the
but perhaps
caveat of
conclusions?
anything that does not expose risk publicly, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair. Mr. Hayes, I want to go back to you. In 719, you mentioned you can't report some findings publicly because doing so would reveal vulnerabilities and pose a national security risk, which is fine. We reported them directly to the departments. Do you have assurances from the departments that these items will be addressed? And are these departments reporting back to you that these issues were being addressed?
Yes, the department responded to our recommendation to us, and we will be going back to follow up to make sure that they are addressed. That was one of the reasons we wanted it in the report, so that it was completely transparent and that you could ask us whether we have done our job.
Is there a timeline on when they're going to have committed to address this issue?
So it was based on the recommendation that we made. There was an importance to act immediately, and at this point in time, I don't think that there was a specific time frame in the response, but we will be looking at whether or not actions have been taken.
Are you able to explain the nature of the issue?
It was a monitoring and oversight kind of issue from the central agency perspective.
Okay. One of my colleagues in the House had an order paper question about data breaches, and I think it came back like 2,400 pages of data breaches suffered by the government. This was it was November 2021, so a year and a half ago. Could any of these data breaches be directly linked to perhaps some of the shortcomings that you've identified in our security?
I'm not in a position to say that. I mean, I guess what I would say in response is that the importance of preventing, detecting, and acting is one of the points of emphasis from our report. And part of being in a position to be able to do that is making sure that the controls that have been established are being put in place. So, and the monitoring and oversight is being done effectively. That is the posture that needs to be taken.
Okay. Ms. Luello, you mentioned about we need to spend more money to stop falling further behind. How much have you identified? Is it solely for TBS, or is this, you're speaking on behalf of Mr. Perron needs more money as well, or department-wide? And if so, how much money?
Yeah, in terms of a dollar value, from an overall government perspective, I think that the technology spend, the digital spend that we do is substantial, and the largest issue we have is around delivery against the work that we've committed to do. So I would suggest that it is less about spending more money on digital and more about being more focused and prioritized in which digital work needs to go and applying the right resources to it.
Did I hear did I hear wrong? I thought I heard that from yourself, we need to spend or invest more and spend more money to stop falling further behind.
We need to invest more consistently. So the funding models, the way that government funds, at least to my understanding, I'm by no means an expert, it's on an annual rolling basis or a programmatic view, and it is also done in a very decentralized way, and that is where I would say that we have challenges. But from a spend perspective, to just double click on what Rajiv said, we do need to continue to spend in the cybersecurity, and we do need to be able to spend on skills. All of that together is the spend envelope, but we do not have a forecast, if that's the question you're asking.
Okay, let me just ask, the main estimates just came out. Was there satisfactory money in there for what you need to do and what we need to do from your department?
So from a Cyber Center perspective, Budget 2022 did provide a significant amount of money to CSC.
Enough?
From a cloud perspective, a lot of the monitoring that we do is directly proportional to the transition or the migration of departments to the cloud. So as the departments migrate to the cloud, our needs will potentially grow, but currently we are able to monitor.
Okay. Just one last question, and I'm not sure, maybe it's Mr. Perron. The data centers, I've been at OGO for 7 years, and I remember Mr. Parker coming and describing the data centers. Explain it to me in simple terms. Are we migrating some of the work data over to the cloud? And if so, are there money savings that should be being experienced in the data centers, or is this apples and oranges?
Thank you for the question. Mr. Chair, very complicated, but I think I will start the answer. When we close legacy data center and we bring these called workload into an enterprise data center, yes, there is savings because we, at scale, and the infrastructure in the enterprise data center give us better reliability, better security, but
Moving it over to the cloud, is there?
usually
Just one
to
second,
make
Mr.
it
Colley, just don't, you're past your time, so I'm going to let Mr. Perron speak, but if you interrupt, I'm going to cut the time. So, Mr. Perron, you have the floor for, I know you said it's a complicated answer, about 30 seconds.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so we try to avoid what we call lift and shift by taking workloads from legacy data center and just bringing it in the cloud. There is an element of modernization, and there is a business there. So I think, like my colleague explained a bit later, the analysis of each case depend on the effort that we will put in the modernization and how we are going to spread. So I think I can provide you more if you're interested. But we have in the last subsea a saving that was in public PSPC that was funding is transferred back to SSC because we are consuming less space because we are closing legacy data centers. So there is saving with the consolidation, at least within the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.